Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to episode 10 of Between Whiskey and Pneumonia. I'm Drew Shapiro here with my co-host Nick Hatt. Happy to be joined today by Jay Wu, tattoo artist, entrepreneur, self-declared conspiracy theorist. Did I get that right?
Hey, you got, yeah, you know what? We are going to talk about some crazy stuff.
Okay.
I mean, you put me on a podcast. I don't know why. Like Alex Jones is gone, bro. Do you guys want to be gone next week? I'm just kidding.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming down, man. We appreciate it. I look forward to hearing some stories. I'm sure you've got some good ones.
Yeah. Well, I live a weird life, so not an ordinary life, that's for sure.
That's good, though.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got different choices you make in life, and I was always this person who was just wandering around. So my family was artistic. My mother was an artist. My dad was an artist, but he wasn't in my life very long. And then he just sort of like took off because he was a trucker. He kept on trucking, went to go get milk, never came back. So, then I had stepdad, and he was like really hardcore, so my stepdad was like a real hardcore conservative gun guy, government, not government, but like, how can I say it? Like conservative, strong, constitutional type guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I got to thank him for somewhat giving me some sort of handle on not being a complete lunatic, because like I'm doing good with my life now. And I think it's what he imposed. Like when you go through life, especially when you're younger, no matter who you're going to be wild. Everyone's going to be different. You know what I'm saying? So as long as you got somebody who imposes that good direct line of morality and confidence, or just to do stuff, I think it's a good thing. So he was the man. My mom was just an artist, and it was really weird. So as my art talent or becoming an artist was something that was natural, I guess was said, but also my mom was going to college, and she was going to Flint Institute of Arts. Now a lot of people don't realize this, but the Flint Institute of Arts was one of the top art schools along with New York and all this stuff. Now let me explain how odd this is, because certain areas get a hype. If you look at right now, Colorado and Denver, and California for so long had a hype. New York was the mecca of the art world. Mm-hmm. The thing is about Flint, Michigan, it's a funny place, is that there's a lot of really strong things that happen in Flint, and we had a really strong institutional art teachings there, and the Flint Institute of Arts was huge. And the thing was, there was actually very epic teachers, very, very, very strong teachers. I think one guy who taught my mom was taught by somebody, and it went down to Salvador Dali, just the guy's skills on just insane. I have a few art pieces that were handed down to me from people who are instructors there that I keep in my personal collection that are just absolutely insane. So while she was going to school there, she would take me because she couldn't take me anywhere. So I've been doing portrait sketches since I was probably 12.
Right. Yeah, I know I've been in your shop a couple times and seen some of the artwork, and then I've sat and watched you with your iPad working, and it's impressive.
Yeah, well, the iPad is, I actually hate the iPad. I hate the technology, but it works so good for basically, so when it comes down to tattooing is, how can I say it? It's, if you're a drafter, if you can draft a building, you could be an amazing tattoo artist. If you're a drafter or a surgeon, you'll probably be the best tattoo artist in the world, because you can find any type of inspiration. Then with these machines such as the iPad, you can lay it out so quickly, and then boom, it's made the tattooing universe so good. It's made people who, I don't know, maybe you can't even free sketch, amazing artists, you know what I'm saying? But it's a different form of art media. I was taught with very iron fist that I should be able, right now, you can give me a pad, I will draw you, and it has to look good.
Right.
And to be a good artist, you have to be able to do all the fundamentals, just like boxing, just like doing any other job or anything. And then to be an abstract artist, if you're a true master, or you can actually see abstract art, somebody who can take that and then break it down and then do their rendition, but they have to have the original skills first.
Nice.
Wild, man.
That's good.
Yeah. So
how'd you, what led from the art into the tattooing?
I was doing art, and I mean, I was just doing art all the time, and I was just hanging out and doing comic book art. And I never really got it in anywhere in art. And the art world is so hard. Everyone who's an artist, they say that, the liberal artist, the starving artist, it's so true. And I think in today's today's day and age, it's easy to market art because art is needed so much because everything's so visual. And basically, I was just drawing comic books. And then my first situation, I had a guy who used to play pranks with me all the time. He was very good at playing pranks. And I was offered a job at Dark Horse, and they were going to recruit me at 17 and hire me at 18. They had called me, and I thought it was my friend pranking me. And I was like, they wanted me on Dark Horse Comics, offered me a job at 17 years old.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, okay. And let me tell you, between me and 17, I think 17 to 25 was an idiot. Okay.
Yeah, most of us, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
pretty standard across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I just was barely getting by the seat of my pants on like figuring life out. And so I was joking. And then this guy's like, yeah, I really gave these guys your number. I was at a comic book event and they like saw your work and they were blown away. And so I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to like, you know, draw stuff. And I drew because I wanted to, and I did art even after. But for so long when I was young, I was doing so much artwork that there was this huge gap where I just barely was doing art. And that's what happened. I was barely doing art because it was like, it's like if you have a kid and you want to be a football star and you have him doing football stuff his whole life, and then he decides he wants to be a ballerina. You know, like the first male ballerina, or I don't know if there is a male ballerina, but you know what I'm saying? Like it just goes completely off the kilt to the opposite direction because he's been around it so long. So I was just like, it came so easy to me that I was just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. So I was just like hanging out. And I was like, well, I'm going to like work on cars and I'm just getting into car stuff and just work an everyday job like everyone else. And then one day, you know, I was doing what everyone was suffering, and working in the auto industry sucked. And I was like, I need a job. I can do stuff. And somebody said, hey man, you ever think about tattooing? I was like, no way, man. I was like, I draw tattoo stuff. At this time I was always drawing people's tattoos and doing flash. But I was like, I was super scared that like, I thought I've never seen tattoo process done. So somebody brought it up to me and I was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, dude, I thought like, I thought when you went in a room, you came out, it was like, you know, it looked like a horror movie. Cause you know, I don't know. Cause I watched a lot of horror movies, right? They come out like, and I was like my first nightmare. So I don't know if anyone ever thinks about it, but it's what is that movie? It's a zombie movie, but basically I think it's 30 Days or something. But basically there's a scene where like, there's this like crow pecking this dude's eye out, and the guy's like, get away from there, and a drop of blood falls in the guy's eye, and he's like instantly turns into a zombie. And I'm just like, that's what's good.
Days later. That's
and that's what I was like, dude, that's gonna happen to me, bro. You know, and I was so scared. So I waited on a little bit, then I went to a tattoo shop and I was like, this is cool. And the guy that owned the shop was a interesting fellow. It was a Custom Ink and Steel. It's the shop. It doesn't exist to this day. You know, everything has its time. And I went in there and my buddy's like, you know, I'm trying to get a printership. And trying to get a printership is like, if the way it works is when you go to a tattoo shop, they're like, why? And all these people in the tattoo industry, it's legendary that you try to get a printership. It's like a hazing. It's like you get your foot in the door. It's like you got to show up the next day after like just totally getting told to F off. And then you got to show up the next day and still want it. You know what I'm saying? So he ignored me. I hung out on the shop because shops are like that. And shops are cool. Tattoo shops, you get to hang out and stuff. And then the thing I noticed that if you're going to get an apprenticeship, if the guy's never promising you anything and he doesn't really care, and the guy's a good artist, if you want to get an apprenticeship, you want to go to somebody's good, that's the guy who's probably going to do you better than the guy who's like, oh, we want you in here, man. We want you part of the system. You know what I'm saying? Because nowadays these tattoo shops are just picking these artists up like crazy. So I show up. He doesn't want anything to do with me. Next day, I'm like, give me something to draw. And he gives me the craziest thing to draw. It was just super. I had a ballpoint pen. I drew it perfectly. And it looked realistic from side by side. He was like, okay, yeah, like keep showing up, you know. He caught interest in me. So they didn't have any room for artists. And I kept showing up. At this time, it was like life was life. I was losing my job. It was up and down, you know, getting laid off a lot. And I was like, all right, well, I got to pick up the pace, you know. And then it wasn't really going anywhere. So at this time, I bumped into a man named Kyle Dunbar at a shop called Almighty Tattoo. You guys might know him from Ink Masters seasons 3 and 4. And he's seeing my skill. And he was like, wow, you're amazing. You got to hang out. And I just liked hanging out with all the people there. It was like the original tattoo family that I had. I had 2 tattoo families. It was like I was hanging out at the shop over here and becoming friends with people. And then I really became friends with this other shop. So I started hanging out with them and just hanging out there, learning little bits of stuff, hanging out, helping out. And it was more friendships. We were out just doing stuff. And it was a different approach. It wasn't like he wasn't promising me anything either. And we just started hanging out. And I didn't really get started with my apprenticeship. It was more or less just
being
people.
there. Yeah, just being there, meeting people.
Networking is crazy in this industry. So I don't know, for some reason, I like formed a bond with this, with him and his wife and, the people that work there that I still see from time to time. They're all doing great things now and doing their own things and stuff. And he had another shop that he had opened up, and he had bit off Marine Shoe. And what happened is my friend dragged me back to the other shop, and he sat the owner of the shop down. He's like, if you don't hire this dude, if you don't get him in here and keep him, he's going to go to this other shop and he's going to stomp us out. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be, you're going to,
He's talking about you.
Yeah, talking about me competitively versus the other shop, that it will be an issue. So I end up going back to custom, and I sometimes still get it to this day that he'll, Kyle mentioned, we still talk time to time. He actually does a podcast. And, so that's the end of my story. Next thing I know, I'm tattooing. I had about 5 months into apprenticeship, and they started working me, which was way too early. So the biggest thing is, I don't know if anyone watches this, it's, thinks about being a tattoo artist. It's the reason why I sort of talk about what, my viewpoints on it. So somebody can pick up some information from us, is that it was way too early. Apprenticeships, they say, are 2 years. It's really hard nowadays for 2 years. I had to hold a day job. Biggest thing for shops, if you're a shop, you want an apprentice, you're better off getting somebody who's willing to work 40 hours a week and come into the shop and put in good time than getting somebody who's like, doesn't know what they're doing and wants instant gratification. So my art skill dragged me into being a tattoo, but then tattooing is a whole different world, man. You got different skins, you got different people, your equipment can do crazy things. You got to know your equipment. It was crazy. And I was instantly like into it. I was like, this is who I am now. This is what I love to do. And that's where it went from there. And it's been a wild road since.
It's the only way it works, man. You got to love it.
It was like becoming a tattoo artist was like becoming a rock star. It was like I got to live any lifestyle I wanted. Like I went into it, and I barely swore. I was like, I'm just hanging out. Like I was into art, and I was an artist. And I was like, I get to share my art. Next thing I know, I'm hanging out, going to like tattoo conventions, which are wild. And the first tattoo conventions, like now when I go to tattoo conventions, I'm always going to learn and network. When I first went there, all I think was like, there's a hotel. We are in a hotel, and there's a convention, and there's a lot of girls, and I'm single.
Right. Party.
Yeah. Party, dude. Party. Oh, man. Yeah.
Fucking insane.
It was insane. It was like crazy. I remember one time, it was crazy. I was hanging out with this one artist, and he was just goofy. I thought the dude was so cool. He had that 90s look with a mohawk and stuff, and just the goofiest guy. And we're sitting here, and I don't know why. I just think that I have a way with women of just having a good time, feeling comfortable. I'm hanging out with these girls, and they start pole dancing on the people mover. Straight up turn this thing into a, and he's like freaking out. And the guy's like, he's like way more like cooler looking than I am. He looks like he's like so like, he looks like he's like some like 90s like rocker style dude. And I convinced these girls to give him lap dances. And we're sitting here, people are getting on the people mover. Oh, this girl's got hit. Like his face is crammed in between this girl's leg. And she's just, whoa. And I'm just like sitting here, and he's like, oh my God. And he's like, it was so funny. And I forgot, he had a girlfriend, but his girlfriend was not the coolest, right? And his girlfriend had dished him at the convention. And I'm a savage.
Idea.
I'm a savage. Yeah, like that's the way it is. With me, is that like I'm good at relationships, but like if I'm not having a good time, and if you do something like that, was this Bogue, like what she did and how he acted, like she was. I'm like, bro, your girl's going to hang out with some other dude. Like, let's go. Yeah. I was like, let's go. And I still remember this whole scene of just people getting on the people mover, and like when you do something shocking in public, and people are in like Detroit, they're just like okay,
carry on.
Yeah, let's carry on.
Everyday occurrence.
Everyday occurrence, right? Yeah. We went like 2-3 laps in the people mover. I was like, this is great.
Oh, no shit. So your automotive career fizzled out. You hit the tattoo shop.
Yeah.
Took off.
Yeah.
Still doing great.
And my automotive career was like I was working in GM, but I loved cars. And what other thing I got into was cars because like when I was young, there was like these hillbilly dudes that lived by me. And they literally like tortured me like as a kid. And then one day they, invite me in the garage and toss a wrench. And so I was infatuated with the automotive car scene. And I was doing marketing and promos, and I was doing the first drift events in America alongside with Drift Alliance and Club FR and these like 4 groups, Japanese drifting. I found it on an Option 2 video, cars sliding sideways, this whole culture of different driving based off of just, I don't know, like based off of road racing gone crazy.
Right.
And I was like, oh, awesome. And then I started watching anime. Yes, I'm an anime nerd. So I was watching this anime about drifting. And I was like, I like this more than drag racing. So I actually developed my own scene. And I did all that. And I was doing that. And that started fizzling down too. Because I'm going to tell you what, drifting cars, like to this day, if people that do it, it's so expensive. You go out for 4 sets of tires, like one day.
Right.
To whoever does that automotive sport is just insane, and you're rich. I'm not.
Right.
Yeah. So I just started doing tattooing stuff, and I became a tattoo artist. And this whole life, like, I just had no idea what I wanted to be. And to anyone out there who wants to do something, like, if you don't have structure, obviously now you have so many ways to find structure in life by watching YouTube videos and inspiration and research. I don't think it was really there. YouTube was just starting to explode and everything. And I was just like on the seat of your pants. Go do something, man. Do something and then try to better yourself and do fun stuff. You don't have to have a structured life where your life is boring and you can still succeed in life by pushing yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's like a weird way of saying it, but it's my lifestyle. Like, it could be anyone else's lifestyle. My lifestyle is crazy, but there's a double-edged sword. I'd never had a family, never got married, no kids, I'm living like the same rock star lifestyle. And, that rock star lifestyle really changed over time. Like, it was awesome. I did a lot of fun stuff, a lot of great stories, and then it goes through different stages. So, the next stage, well, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but take a drink here. And
But no, it's funny you said that, because I think that's probably why you and I kicked it off the way we did, because it's fun to go hang out at the car meets and act crazy and be goofy and, play video games and act like a kid. But at the end of the day, you've always had like such a positive message of trying to, like you've said it 5 or 6 times. If there's anybody listening, do this, do that, help out.
Do it, do stuff, be a part of something,
You always had that uplifting message.
Yeah. That's another thing too, is, even to feel the vibe of this podcast is that, do something. Like there's a reason why Nike made Just Do It, because it works. It inspires, and some of the inspiration that people get doesn't last all the time. Sometimes it fizzles out. But the thing is, you don't have to do, it's whatever you can do. I had a friend who was doing a junkyard business, and I kept telling him, I was like, make it the coolest junkyard business ever. Like, put a sign on the side of your car, make a YouTube channel about doing the job. I saw like this whole, I actually saw what could have been a $30,000 a year company that could turn into possibly like $250,000 to $1 million, faceted company where you're basically using YouTube to create content by doing your job by the daily, and when I tattoo, I try to market my tattooing and stuff like that, and try to market visually what's going on, because I want everyone around me to be involved and see it,
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's positive vibes. That's why we're friends, man. I was like, we sit there and we get to talk about that stuff, and talking about now in this podcast is like, just let you think about like what I just said. You could be a junk dude. You can be a tattoo artist. You can do whatever you want with your life. But the biggest thing, like Bruce Lee says, is like what you tell yourself, contains a spell that will create that reality. So if you got to be positive and you're like, hey, I'm the best I am. That's why confident people like do things, like certain stuff. I'm trying to think. The guy who played Jack Black. What's that guy actor's name?
I can see his face.
Yeah.
Okay, he's like big dude. He's a big dude, comedian. Okay, I can't think of him offhand, but anyways, he was one of the most sought after males in Hollywood. I mean, like, as far as like you talk about the rumors, so and so talk about so and so. I mean, I think he's going against Brad Pitt. He's going against different people because, like, you know, he was funny and he was bold, you know, and confident. Hey, dude, even if you're confident, you have to own it and wear it. You're not going to be confident all the time. And the fact that if you see that when you're having your hard times, or you get your friend you can talk to or convene yourself and build your strength back up, that's being a human being, you know.
Well, I think that's really interesting too, because if you don't believe in yourself, you can't expect other people to.
Yeah,
right?
Leadership role.
So, and going back a second to what you said about getting your apprenticeship and how you started out, it's really kind of interesting, and I guess I've never thought about it this way, but it really transcends, I think, every industry, and that's 90% of it is just showing up.
Yeah.
And showing back up.
Yep.
And just showing back up, even when it sucks.
I started an MMA career at the age, I think 34.
Wow.
I was working out all the time. I mean, I'm real chubby right now. I don't like to change shapes and whatnot, but I'm going to tell you what, I was a fine individual, very fine individual. And I worked out a lot. I was working out all the time. I was doing all this stuff, and everyone's like, well, I want you to CrossFit and this stuff. I'm like, I don't know, dude. It just seems like it's like you guys are like just trying to be like the next level of like how extremely ridiculous you can get with getting, push-ups and stuff. I was like, I want to do something constructive. I want to do something that like challenges me in a way, but something that's, I don't know, just made sense. And for some reason, I got into karate. I went to this karate school, and I'm like, all right, we put some like little gear on, you dance around and stuff. And your karate is like learning. Karate is really, it's actually turning discipline into a faceted skill set. And then I was like, I like this, but I'm a beast, man. I'm a monster, and I'm a nut. So yeah, I went into MMA. Yeah, and I started training, and it was just a different world. And wrestling and jiu-jitsu is a thought process. It was a time I challenged myself. I succeeded. And then it was my time, very short time in that, it was like 4 years, maybe 5. So
I think it's all discipline.
it was, that taught me discipline. 2 things taught me discipline. 1, I was working at GM, and if you're late, you get fired. So it takes a long time to get you fired, but 2 minutes late, you get fired for no matter what. I swear they try to, 2, MMA, they were like, you had to be disciplined, and you had to, and there's dudes in there that weren't, you know what I'm saying? But you learned. And I was like amazed that I could do one thing and then become this at the end of the day. And then eventually I was like, I got to do artwork. So, pounding faces and then tattooing somebody with a steady line don't go hand in hand.
Right.
It's not a good idea. It was just the worst idea. I actually wanted to do it. I got out of the way, and I was like, I'm a tattoo artist. I'm an artist at the end of the day. It's like, I didn't choose it. It chose me. The tattoo game's like that, man. It chooses you because it's a tight knit. It's a really tight knit, and it's weird. I got people in the industry that love me, and I get people in the industry that hate me. And then, here's you got to look at my perspective. Okay. I'm not like a left or rightist type person. I am a very, I believe in like doing the best you can, trying to be the best, but I also believe that you make mistakes. And then I believe in the Constitution, which gives us, it's a contract agreement that basically is supposed to throw a wrench in tyranny. Basically, the Constitution works in a sense that you have so many sectors of government to try to pass something super quickly beneath people, because if you're going to pass something that's going to disrupt people, you have to do it quick. You have to, it's when you get scammed. Anyone who tries to push up on you on anything and tell you to do this and do that, they're usually trying to scam you, or they're trying to hurt you, the quicker the decision making is. So the decision making is slow. And I had this mindset that was different from most tattoo artists. I was straight edge. I'd barely, I smoke a little weed now and then. And I like drinking whiskey, which is great. So that's the reason why I came on your show. Where's the whiskey at? We're going to do that. So anyways, so I was like, so it was a different world for me, because it was a rock and roll world, and I fell into it, but I still held certain fundamentals up. So coexisting with the dude next to me who like literally does anything and everything and has a different mindset, I butted heads with a lot of artists, and my work ethic in tattooing was, hey, you got to be a good artist. And like I butt a lot of heads, a lot of different viewpoints. I mean, going back to Kyle Dunbar, we're very different like mindsets. He's a very different mindset from me, but we're still good friends. But the funny thing is, he loves to catch you up and like, because that guy is definitely he's about not drama. It's very, how can I say it, dramatic. He's a expressive individual, and I can be too. And we will sit here, and when we talk publicly, we will mess with each other. Even when we work together, we would sit there and just go at it, over little subjects, but we are still friends at the end of the day. And that's the kind of world I was like in, there's a lot of liberal minded set artists that were in there. But it was different, so it was fun. And then I made some really good friends, and then I made some really good enemies. So.
Right.
No, that's really interesting, and that leads me to something I wanted to ask you. And do you have different? And it seems like you do. Ethical standards that you apply to the work you do. Like, are there things that you?
I don't tattoo. I don't tattoo things that on somebody who isn't sure of who they are yet, because I spent my whole life not sure who I am. I know who I am now. And so if somebody's coming in a tattoo and they want to get their, like, I had a 19-year-old coming. I think he was like 18-year-old kid coming with his mom, and he wanted his throat blasted for his first tattoo. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it, bro. And he's like, what? I'm like, why you want to get your throat blasted? Oh, because I'm so cool. And I'm like, bro, I
don't even know what that means.
So he wanted his whole neck tattoo.
Oh, wow.
Whole front of his neck, the sides. And I was like, I don't want to do it, man. I get people that come in, the cool mom that wants their, 15-year-old kid to have a tattoo, and then they want to get their hand blasted, So I'm like, no, dude, like, don't care. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, when I really want a tattoo, I want to do my artwork and stuff. And that's what happens. As a tattoo artist, you can do two types of things. You can hustle, tattoo everything you possibly can, or you can develop to create your art and your image and sell it like a brand. So yeah, there's a lot of unethical stuff that does happen in tattooing, but like, man, I'm telling you, man, tattooing ain't like, it ain't church, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's gangster. I tattoo gangsters. I've tattooed bad people, and I've been friends with a lot of them for years. And, but the certain thing I think when it comes down to unethical is just the, children, making decisions. Cause I was always young minded. I was always reckless. And then all of a sudden, I get, months my mid-20s, and I start growing up really quick. I start thinking about stuff, and then I went through some stuff, and then I'm in a different mindset than I was,
Well, I think that's something that can apply to just about any industry or career. You have people who do it with one frame of reference and an ethical view, or people are just out there hustling, trying to scam or take advantage of people. And that can go for finance, that could go for concrete or construction. I think that can go for just about anything. So
I think that if you are doing anything and you do the hustle, everyone can hustle. I'll tattoo people on budget. I'll do whatever I can. I'll work those extra hours. I think that if you build a product, a service, or an ideal that's real, that it may take time for any of those things to turn into something solid. But when it does, it's rock solid. And that's what that's what I was learning. And the biggest thing is, and the biggest word that comes to mind is integrity. We are in a society today that lacks integrity. And integrity is the ability to just be like, and I lacked it. I did not gain integrity until like maybe 3 years ago. I had no idea what it was. And it was my biggest dent with my committed relationships. I'm always like a relationship guy, which was crazy because I'm in a tattoo industry, and you can imagine how the two contrast, you know what I'm saying? But
you've got some stories.
I'm flirtatious, man. I'm friendly. You know how friendly I am. I had some.
Well, the problem is a lot of people mistake friendly for flirtatious. Like,
yeah. But also, I'm so used to being transparent and open that I forget. Conduct even like professionalism is like, but I don't want to talk like a robot to people. So I think with tattooing, it's funny. I've learned the best expression I've always said is like, hey, there's an artist for everyone. And that's the best way, because I find people that I vibe with and I really feel constant connection. But as far as relationships I never had good integrity, because I didn't just tell girls, hey man, I'm flirtatious. I'm a friendly guy. Like, you don't like it, like F off. If you can't believe in me, F off. And I'd always a lot of us males in relationships, we sit there and try to please a woman. And sometimes your best stance is to be like, this is how I'm knit. I take care of business. And if you know you're a good dude, you stand by it and you don't get into a emotional confrontation of argument. You have to stand very still and very calm, and actually learn that from fighting, which is weird. That
right. Yeah,
go
you're
in
about to
wrestling,
get choked out. You can't freak out. You better just remain calm. And do what
or
you're
if you're
supposed
gonna,
to do.
or for a split second when you're wrestling, or if you're about to go into a situation where you're about to try to turn the tide of body movement, there's like a huge thought process. It's like an instant, like 2 seconds, and it feels like in your head it's like a week. It's like a long process where you're thinking all these stuff as quick as you can. I've had it where I've fought somebody and we both just stared at each other before you made your next move. Or on the ground, just for a second, it was like dead gaze, like, because you're like two people deciding. Like, that's a thing that basically where I'm sort of digressing from, but what I'm basically saying is that I never was able to take a stance to calm myself, have integrity, and say my piece. And it caused a lot of trouble in my life. So if anyone out there, thankful for YouTube, is watch videos on integrity. And it's okay for you to be like, this is how I am and this is who I am. That's what I'm like now. Like, I'm like, this is who I am. I don't care. And you got to imagine how hard it is in my industry when I have an industry where I have people come in there like, I got to have the right pronoun. I get a lot of like liberal feminist. And then I get like, do with like Trump sticker and not constitutionalist, but a huge conservative that comes in, all these different types of people. And I don't really talk politics at work because I like life is entertainment. My job is entertaining. I want to be entertaining when I'm there. But sometimes it comes up. It's like you have to be very true to who you are with integrity, but you have to be very understanding of how you talk to people. A lot more listening than talking. Obviously, you guys are learning that from doing podcasts. But
I think you also have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And even as like the whitest of white belts, right? I feel like that's something you can try to achieve relatively early is, okay, this is super uncomfortable.
It's
but
super
I'm gonna
uncomfortable.
Try to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's something that can go for life in general.
Well, and like,
I'm sure you have people come in and it's like, man, this might make me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
but I'm a business owner. I'm a professional. Yeah, I've got to find some level of comfort with that.
Like martial arts. I mean, the reason why I bring that up is like when you start a martial arts or MMA, you do not fit in that room. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different world. And that's what it teaches you. Martial arts teaches you discipline, and it teaches you how to be comfortable when you're discomfort. But how many of us go to martial arts? How many of us go to meet that certain person in our life that help? I think today with media that you can find these things. And I urge people to go out there and find these things. I don't think you're embarrassing. Don't think that you're a lesser person for doing that. I think that what really changed my life, I've been doing pretty good, but I guess we can talk about finding these paths, is I went out and I want to get better with relationships. So I would talk to older people in relationships. And then I got Coach Corey Wayne, which I'm not going to, I don't mean to plug anyone, but that guy's YouTube channel changed me, and it helped direct me into researching a life of, with a significant other, and also following your purpose and path. One thing I've learned out of all this is like, I'm a tattoo artist. This is who I am. I've had people in my life try to say, don't be that because I don't want you to be that. Never change who you are or what you're going to do. Even if you have integrity and you're going to voice who you are and what you want to do and you really want to do it and that makes you happy, then do it. So that's it, man. It's crazy stuff. Yeah.
You sound more like a philosopher.
Life is philosophy.
Right.
I mean, getting a job is a stage act. Mm-hmm. I mean, they say I don't know, it's Plato or whatever, but they say that life is a stage. It's I don't know if they even teach this stuff in school anymore, but basically in philosophy, that life is a stage. You're an actor. So the more that you can accommodate that acting, now this is a positive and negative thing, because people with integrity, when you're building the concrete, strong plan, it's going to go well. But the hustlers in the world are the best actors. They're always the ones that make you, come in super smooth. And those are the ones who, make Terra Luna and steal all your money in crypto. Just a jump over there. In case you guys don't know, guys, listening world. So the crypto industry is like the wild, wild west. There is a lot of rug pullers going on out there. I'm also a crypto investor. So yeah. Actually, it's an interesting story. Let's talk about that real quick because this is really funny. So I probably don't make that much. Okay. And Nick over here, he is like big baller daddy, right? So this guy has seen me. Okay. Well, I mean, you're doing good, you know? I mean,
Doing good.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Look at you. You're amazing, you know? So listen, I'm talking, I went into crypto and I threw like 30 grand into it, about 40 grand into it. And one day I made $78,000 in 4 hours because I just got the hang of it. When the market's flying, anyone can be a master. You do a little, well, if you do a little research, got the hang of it. I was making money, you know, everything was going up. And I would like to say that, like, I would probably say a year ago on paper, I was probably almost $250,000 in a year. Yeah, I'm broke now. I don't know. It's just a fun adventure. I just wanted to share that because that's just crazy. That was another part of my adventure. I never was rich, and then I was like rich in a year, and then I'm back to being, you know.
It's funny. I have to be really careful what I say about investments, like with my job. Right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And how we're regulated, but it's interesting to me, you know, how people perceive any market really is going up and down when really it just soars and plummets.
Yes.
Right? It's like, oh, Thursday it's this, Tuesday it's this, and people make lifelong impactful decisions based on very short-term emotional information, or I guess if it's emotional, it's not really information, but feelings. And sometimes that can have huge negative or positive long-term impacts. But usually if you're operating on emotion, it's probably going to turn out poorly.
Yeah. The psychology of the trade is basically, I'm sure we don't have to go investing too much. Obviously, it's the thing you do. But for you people out there, listen, if you ever decide to invest, I can't give you any advice, but just don't stress
Ironically,
out.
You're not licensed, so you can give it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well,
it's really funny how that works.
Okay, well, this is for for YouTube reasons, you have to say this. So you have to say it's not financial advice, but dollar cost average into your life. If you know, this is another thing too that I wish I would have known when I was younger. My stepfather, and my father were just dudes who didn't care about money, and they're like, I'm not going to bring it when we died. And I got in an unfortunate situation where my stepfather got ALS. And this is actually what I was talking about earlier in the show. So I'm going to digress off this subject. We'll go back in a second. But my father got ALS. I was going to conventions. I met a lot of people through Kyle. And he was actually, it's weird, really weird. I keep always talking to, like, bringing it up. But he helped me out a lot. And even though me and him like could literally headbutt each other sometimes, I have a lot to offer for him, making me feel comfortable in a place I didn't feel comfortable with, us being total opposites, like the yin and yang somewhat in some degrees, and how much of a family member he made me feel like in this industry. And I made a lot of friends in this industry. So when I had the opportunity to try to get on Ink Masters and I didn't make it, I got to talk to some of the people from there, and I got to meet a lot of people when I did a few conventions. I only did a few conventions, but I was always at conventions hanging out. And I made some friends, and I got lucky to make these good friends. And so he helped me out a lot, and everything was going awesome. I'm a rock star. I'm looking great. I'm super fit. I always have a beautiful and wonderful girlfriend, even though I was always screwing those up. But that goes back to integrity, guys. Hope you learned a lesson about that. Coach Corey Wayne, note that, watch that, live it. My life was going awesome. And then, I couldn't hold the tattoo shop in my job at GM. So I'm doing 80 hours a week. I'm doing 70, 80 hours a week. For anyone else out there, if you want to succeed, listen, man, I did 60 to 55 hours a week in a place I hated. And if you're going to get places, you're going to have to do that time. If you want to be a warrior, I mean, that's a part of the warrior thing. You think about the Spartans and Spartacus, those movies where the guy's like in the trenches fighting people. It's the same concept. You go to war, World War II, you're fighting. There's a part of your life where you're not going to like it. It's not going to be comfortable. You have to embrace that if you know you're going to get to something better. Mm-hmm. So I'm at, I get my shop rolling full time. Everything's going awesome. I feel like my life's awesome. I'm still trying to figure myself out, but I'm starting to feel it. And then, I find out my dad's dying, and it was like the hardest change in my life, because ALS isn't something that just goes, I'm dying, I'm going to be gone in a month. It's, I'm dying, you're going to be dealing with me for 4 years, maybe 6, maybe 10, if you're lucky. And like my life changed, like everything changed. Like it was so dramatic that I didn't know how to perceive who I was. I mean, I was living like a rock star and everything was different, and then it slammed on my brakes. It was so just imagine this guy. So I go to see my parents. I have no idea what's going on other than he might be sick. And then he hands me this pamphlet, and this is the way he could do it. He didn't want to talk. He was not like a very talkative guy like me. And he just hands me this thing, and he's like, this is a pamphlet dealing with death. And he hands it to me. He's like, son, I'm dying. And I was just like
that.
Just like that. And,
Wow.
He was so strong at acting like it was nothing. And so convention stopped. My relationship with other artists stopped. In fact, there was people who worked for me. I had some, employees on and off. I've overturned my shop. It's more of like a private studio. People work with me. I had a few that, like we had a bad accident, and I just heard stories. Like I was hearing things like, what happened to Jay Wu? Oh, you don't even hear about him. And, and then this is when the sharks come out. The people who live off negativity and stuff, this is like the darkest time of time. People are talking bad about me, like, oh, he's gone, and I'm sitting here doing bare minimum, trying to, tattoo to get stuff done. Then I'm going to my parents' house and I'm helping out. And at first it was just, he had a cane and he had a walker. And then next thing you know, he's in a wheelchair. Next thing you know, he's looking different. He's not the strong man I grew up with. He's fighting, and I had to do that for 5 years, about 4 solid years of just pure torture. 1 year of just facing the reality,
Right.
And then, so the thing is that people don't realize, and nobody realizes this, that was, I followed Jay Wu, or I was into him, and then the sharks came out, and then the haters, and, I didn't have too many, but was that I didn't care about that stuff anymore. All I had to do was like figure out what I was going to do. And my mom was taking care of most stuff, but then there was this reality that my mom couldn't handle other situations. My uncle passed away just, out of nowhere. And then we had to handle his estate and all that stuff, which actually helped the family a little bit. Basically it gave me something to do and but it was just so much going on. And I completely, I felt like there was this avenue point where I was going to be, doing conventions and just killing it, tattoo industry. And I'm not saying I missed the bus, but it's a huge pause, and it's just depaused. It's been a few years now. My father finally passed, he passed a few years ago, and I didn't think that would still take this long to go back into the boxing ring, to go back into like being, because your personality is different. You're not, 100% with people all the time. And it was hard because not only did my father, he didn't go in a home. We had to take care of him. His last dying wish is that he died with us. So, I mean, you can imagine where it went to that point when it got to that point,
Right.
So, it was the point, no matter where you're at in life, find yourself, enjoy it, especially when you have the time to just screw up. The more you screw up, everyone, the more that you enjoy your life and you screw up, the more you're living. That's a definite thing, because eventually what's going to happen is eventually the war is going to hit, the front's going to hit, the storm's going to hit, and you're going to have to be you're going to have to be the woman or the man. You're going to have to figure it out. It's going to, so, and then after that, it sort of changed. I've, sort of been with the same girl. We've been on and off a few times, but I worked really hard on being able to handle integrity, and my communication, my relationship's so good, it just brings back together. And I started focusing on, that's why I started investing. I started investing in crypto and stuff, and started investing and started putting, because my dad left with nothing. That's what I was digressing towards. He left, he said, I don't have anything. And he had very little to give my mom. So I was like, I never want to do that. I want to build like an empire that will go in somebody's hand. It could be like a kid if I have a kid, or it could be like my friend, or it could be like whoever's dating me. I don't care, but I don't want to ever do that to somebody. It was really hard. And that's the only mistake he ever made, It was a good man, It's a good man, but we don't think about that stuff. It's weird,
No, it's tough. Drew makes me think about stuff like that, because that's what he does.
And you know what? That's the friendship and the wisdom that you should really take from him, because as an investor, when you learn about investing, you learn how absolutely important it is, and to anyone out there, we're not telling you, you don't have to sit there and do what I did and YOLO a bunch of money into stuff. I mean, it comes down to it. When I said, this isn't financial advice, dollar cost average, get into something and just put some money away that you're not going to miss. Take that extra meal or drinking night out and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice this night out of my week or 2 weeks and put that money away. You will think 20 years from now, you would thank you for sure.
For sure. I think you have to find the balance between enjoying the moment, because, that's all you got, while still prioritizing and thinking about the future, because if you don't, then you can end up really screwing yourself. And I think you mentioned instant gratification earlier. That's one of the biggest detriments, I think, that we see with society today. And you see it through social media. You see people pretending to live these types of lives, and you have people making decisions that affect their long-term futures based on that desire for instant gratification. And, it's oftentimes really unfortunate. And it kind of reminds me what you were saying a moment ago. I think it was Johnny Depp movie. I can't think of it right now, when he's the big drug dealer. And
Blow.
And it's like his dad's talking to him, I think. I could have the movie wrong, but I think it's this one. And he's like, sometimes you're flush and sometimes you're bust. And when you're on top, it's never as good as it seems. And when you're bust, it's like you never feel like you'll be flush again. But
yes,
I butchered that quote. Look, I do often on here. But the sentiment,
if you're bust, you trust.
The sentiment I think it conveys is really good. It's like it's never as good as it seems. But it's also important to enjoy the moment. And when it feels dark and bleak and bad, it's never quite as bad as you think it is, because it could always be worse.
Yeah.
As hard as that is to believe at times.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely say that. So when you think about that movie, that dude was on top of the world, and then he like stole this dude's like drug dealer's wife. He had everything going on. And then at the point of that, his wife left him. He had nothing. His kid didn't want nothing to do with him. It can get much worse. Yeah. He had the bull run of a lifetime, and the problem is it's like, things will get hard, and it's that next stage that you take coming out of that's going to make it better. I remember at one time when I first got into tattooing, there was an epic change in my life because, I was going through a bunch of stuff. I lost my house. I wasn't, GM laid me off for 2 years, told me not to get a job. So I'm on unemployment for like a year, tells me not to get a job because they're going to call me back. And that's when I started tattooing. Well, when you're a tattooing apprentice, that's the reason why I tell people, like, you're going to have to do the legwork because you have to do both jobs. So I lost a lot of stuff becoming a tattoo artist. I made a huge sacrifice instead of transferring to another state. That was my other option.
Right. You go to Fort Wayne or something like that?
Kansas City, actually. Nice. And I just won't feel in the Kansas City thing. I don't really know what it's like out there. So I know it's in the middle place, and I know Kansas and tornadoes, and I just, I don't.
Kansas and tornadoes.
I don't know. I just
Wizard
had
of Oz reference.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not with it. So I sacrificed a lot, and that was my first tough change. And that's what made me a harder worker. That's what made me say I have to do the 60 hours, 70 hours for this amount of time. And the next thing with losing my family was like, no one taught me what you said, finance, investing, and stuff. And like you said, when it's up, it's up. When it's down, but it always recirculates. When greed is in the air, be fearful. And when everyone's like scared, then be greedy, because it always turns, So so it's been a crazy trip. My life has been a crazy trip, and now I'm at the next point where I'm just, I don't know. If there's something bigger with it, I don't know what the next phase is. I want to do art and I do the tattooing, but now I'm coming back into this open time where I have more time to do stuff. And unfortunately, after my father passes, COVID hits and all this crazy stuff, which I think we should get into it. I don't know.
It was fucking crazy.
How much longer do we got? Because I'm about to go off the hinges, boy.
We got a little while. We got a little while.
Okay, awesome. All right, because think about what happened, what's going on now with the and the biggest reason why I think about this and why I can have these conversations, because I thought into it and deeply dug into it, is that I saw my world go upside down. All right.
Right. Yeah. You were completely shut down. In fact, you had just opened back up with one of the first car meets of yours that I came to.
Well, no, even before that, when my father passed away, we're getting everything back together, and then COVID hits. COVID hit like a month after my dad passed, or maybe a few weeks. It was bad. So, when I went into lockdown, went instant lockdown. So the effects of after that with the business, a lot of business didn't make it, so on and so on. Tattoo shops where I have a good landlord. He basically didn't charge me rent or nothing, and he let me stay shut down. He said, listen, just leave your stuff in here, keep the power on, and keep the place clean, do chores. So
right.
Wow. I got lucky. So, now coming back into it now, where I think the time today is there's different types of people right now. There's people who are frantic and they're getting sucked into the social media narratives. They're getting crazy because, and I want to say this in the most neutral and caring way. If somebody is this crazy, like leftist, blue haired, all these stereotypes that you get from all these different fights and stuff on there, they're really people who are really scared and they're really upset and they really want to know what's going on. But, you know, when I had all these life changes, some people have life changes and stuff. There's avenues, and you when you have these life changes and certain stuff that makes you like really look at things like, for example, who's the prophet, the hustler, what I just talked about. When people push you, they're always up to something. You know what I'm saying? The deception and stuff like that. After COVID hit, the world had changed. And there was such a division in thought. But it's being fed. It's being watered. It's being like a fire that's being fanned to be stronger.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, and
they're cramming that shit on you all the time.
So you got to ask yourself one thing. You got to ask yourself who's to profit from this? Okay, who is to profit? And and there's never coincidence of multiple things happening at once without the preemptive existence of planning. Okay, so when you look at yourself, the first thing that came out is that COVID came out. And it was insane. Everyone didn't know what to do, and so much going on, blah, blah, blah. You know, right before that, you had BLM riots that were so all of a sudden okay to happen. Riots were okay. Antifa was making a lot of moves and stuff. And it was just a landslide of chaos. I just came out of chaos. So I was already ready to just deal with it. And it all really pointed into narrative directions. There's no... Like when, and then all of a sudden, why do you take one man off? Why do you take somebody like Alex Jones and you cut him off from being able to speaking? Okay. And then why is all of a sudden it's like snuffing out who's going to have an opinion or a view? It's so important after all of this happens. If I have integrity and I have an honest view and an opinion, then like, I'm not afraid of what people think. So I'm going to say it. Like you said, it's not the most popular view. I'm not supporting the common thing. I'm going to support what I think is right and what I see with my eyes. And what people don't see is they're not using their eyes anymore. What I mean by your eyes is seeing the reality that we're faced, and then asking themselves, who's the prophet? Why does this seem fishy?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's crazy too when you see things like the Ayatollah of Iran, who's screaming death to America and all these things, still has a Twitter account, and former president of the United States doesn't have one, whether you like him or not. I think that's pretty ridiculous. Or the head of Hezbollah, who's advocating for children to strap suicide vests on and go blow up civilians, has a Twitter account.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And that would ask somebody to say, okay, well, why is it that Trump doesn't? And you have to step back and get your personal feelings out there, because you just spent the whole day hearing weird, crazy things that make you upset. And that's when you got to you got to step back, and this is where it comes down to being the calm, don't get caught, because this is a different type of hustle. People don't realize they're getting caught in a hustle.
Oh, yeah.
The faster you move, the faster you react in your emotional response, just like you said with the trading and stuff and like losing it. Yeah. This is the exact same thing. And that's what happens. People start getting emotional, and they're looking at so much stuff, and they're missing things, and they're not looking at the big picture. Exactly why did this one man get removed from being able to speak, and then other media's being snuffed out, but then yet this is being pushed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you what, like when it comes down to big tech, if there's a liberal agenda that's a leftist agenda, that's the problem. It's not a leftist agenda. That's what the leftists don't really understand. They, like I said, they're actually great people, and they just don't realize it because they want the same thing. If you took an Antifa person and you took a patriot and you just said, all right, well, you want communism, you want something that's funded by taxes, your tax money to give you something. And you said, okay, like, let's just figure that out later. And you take this guy and you say, I want, freedom, and I want to be able to not get taxed as much and be able to handle my own stuff. And if these guys could talk, maybe they could educate each other, help each other out, because we already have taxation to a degree. We are in an overtaxed world, and we're in a situation, these people just both want freedom and happiness. They just want to feel secure and safe. And that's what it really is. But the thing is, they're not seeing that. They're being misled with the hustle, and they're making these decisions to get emotional because this isn't just something that's just like really quick. They're trying to push, But if you think about it, trying to push a tyrannical government and to take everything away, you have to keep people emotional for a very long time. Thus, the protests, the riots, COVID comes out. Now you have Roe versus Wade, which, I mean, on current events, let's think about, like, this happens and everyone's got an opinion, and then they line up the fact that they turn it down in a very strong democratic political system at the same time that they say, oh, well, we're going to like turn down gun control, because they are associating the two so that a woman can be she gets very upset about how she feels about that's pro-choice, can associate hating guns.
Yeah.
No one saw that, but it's there because you see the memes where they make the associations.
Right. Yeah. I wish my uterus had as many rights as this gun. Yeah, I've seen them.
And now you've taken a group of very emotional people, and I'm no anyone women watching this, and this is just science what I'm talking about. But you're in an emotional state. It's very upsetting. You're in an upset mood, and you associated that with something else. As you can see, I'm not getting into the left. I'm not getting into the pro-choice life or choice. Because to me, this is a micro problem. Could be bigger to somebody else, but when it comes down to the destructuralization and the crisis of the world economy falling apart to starvation and death, that's something we can go back to. But I guarantee you the reason why they did that was because it's political times. It's about to be voting. It'll eventually go in or whatever. They'll do whatever later. They're going to do it. But they did it because they want to associate the two. Because right now it's time to make the waters rocky. But these are micro problems. There's macro problems with our world right now. And the people that really don't understand, and I'm going to break this down super quick. This is getting really deep. This is crazy. You guys are like, what? I thought we were going to talk about titties and freaking tattooing and wild stuff, which I will. I don't care. My girlfriend's going to listen to this. She's going to be like, oh, she knows I'm wild though. So, but anyways, listen. So like, the reason why I'm talking about this stuff is because I hope somebody who's got a leftist viewpoint watches the show, maybe learn something that makes them think outside the box. Is that the viewpoint is that with the macro is that there's not mainstream media, and you're an investor, so you're going to probably agree with me, is teaching people the basics of what's going on with our financial system. There isn't like a Tucker Carlson coming out and saying stuff, or on the other side, CNN saying stuff that's like, listen, so like right now we got this Jerome Powell. So I want just keyword elements of people to learn here. The guy's an idiot, okay? Or he's stressed out and he just doesn't know what to do. But the guy's basically like, oh, inflation is something we don't understand. Listen, you guys all went to Harvard. You have hundreds of years of knowledge and people you can pay. I know you understand that you are causing an inflation. You spent, 20 trillion freaking dollars. You only gave 20% of this money to the American people itself, like $8 trillion, something like that. So where'd the rest of the money go? Oh, there was proof. Like people came out, like Paul Joseph Watson, certain people came out, and there was media out there, but it happened to be conservative media. And this is where the leftists, or like the liberal type mindset that wants freedom in their own way, could learn that they stole all the money. And wasn't that the 2% thing? Wasn't that the 2%, the taxation theft and all that stuff? Nobody wants that. If they want the money, I mean, they want the money for themselves, so they don't have to, we can go to the whole thing or not work, whatever. But the thing is, it could have been used for the people. It's not being used for the people. And that's why communism never works, because it's always been, socialism and communism always work hand in hand to basically be like, me and you, let's table. We figure out how to we'll convince all these people to give up 50% of their paycheck, 60% of their paycheck. You think I'm going to give it all back? No, they never do.
Well, it's crazy to me too, because if you look at it as a student of history, why the American Revolution started when it did, it was largely due to a 3% tax on paper, paint, lead, glass, and tea. 3%.
3%
on those few items, right? And look at where we're at now.
So
why aren't people absolutely losing their minds?
Right.
That's the conditioning
that keeps you from the macro and the micro. Focus on the micro, get upset over small issues, lose the macro. And that's it. That is huge, because if you look at today, everyone's getting taxed, right? Why? People are willing to jump on a boat, I'm like, I'm gonna jump on that boat. You gonna jump on that boat? I don't know. Where's it go? Well, I hear you can fall off the side of the earth. And I was like, well, I don't know. I heard there's some land over there because some like Christopher Columbus guy went over there. They jump on this boat, right? They were willing to die. They were willing to die than pay taxation law orders. Because back then, when you didn't pay taxes, they were so far in debt that they're going to go to jail. They're going to die, and their family might have taxation debit, which we don't have. We have a clearing system that sort of clears the slate for certain stuff. Now, they were willing to die to come over here to forge America, and that was huge, and people don't understand that. And that's where you got to remember, capitalism isn't perfect, but it's 500 years old. Socialism is like 3,000 plus years old.
Not only that, and most people are willing to jump on a raft, not even a boat, and try to float here to escape it.
Nowadays still, because we still have a little bit of that left, but it's changing. And that's why having this conversation today and not targeting people, not fighting with people. It'd be great for your show's ratings for me to like make fun of some like, hysterical feminist chicks or something. But like, I'd rather talk on a positive note where it's like, listen, think about it. Think about the hustle. Are you being hustled? Probably, because the Constitution and anti-taxation was designed for, hey, listen, I'm putting in your hands. It's a little bit harder. You might have to go out and make a farm or be a little bit more, you have to work harder to keep it, but you keep more. And the Constitution keeps what some people could call progression, could be degression, and could be
Totalitarianism.
Yes, totalitarianism. I always tongue twist that. But a tyrannical government which can control. And this is coming from the mindset of, a liberal artist. So, but I didn't see the hustle. And that was why we talked about having integrity and watching for people trying to do that. And that goes for all little forms of life. Selling you a car that's a piece of crap. Oh, you got to buy it today. There's 20 people lined up to get it.
Right. Right. Guys coming this afternoon with cash.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting you brought that up and that COVID piece. And I think I got into Stoicism as a philosophy at a really good time, which was right around the beginning of COVID. And one of the things I learned there was I can reserve the right to not have an opinion on something. And a lot of people in today's world, that just blows their mind. Like, they expect you to have an opinion and they expect you to give an answer.
Yeah.
To every question. It's like, well, actually,
I don't have to have an opinion.
I don't have an opinion. I don't really care.
Like, I'll tell you right now on this show right now, dude, do you have an opinion on pro-life? I'm like, no, I do not. I don't have those body parts. And listen, like, if I got to pop a little dude out of my penis, like, I don't know. And I know, and I looked into it, but I don't have to have an opinion about everything. That is for other people to settle. And,
Sure.
All I know is like, I use, protection. I back up, when I get a little excited. So it's as simple as that. But I'm just saying, I haven't had problems, I don't know. I mean, and I'm
67% effective 100% of the time.
100%. I don't know, man. I've used condom. I back out the train. Yeah, man. And I am a whorish tattoo artist. Okay, I was a whorish. I am a reformed whore. So, yeah. Hey, man, transparent, man.
No, this is great. I mean, that's kind of the idea of the show. I mean, we had a pastor on last week. So
wow.
This is,
really? You literally went the opposite way. You went the opposite way. Let's talk about religion. Let's talk about deepness. I'm over here like, yo, man. Train stripper parties and or people mover stripper parties.
Right. Well, I think it's really interesting to look at all different perspectives and walks of life, and a lot of times there's so many misconceptions regarding what different people do, like misconceptions regarding a tattoo artist or misconceptions regarding a defense attorney or a pastor. And I think one of the things we're trying to do with the show is shed some light on, some of those misconceptions and what people have to offer, and things aren't always as they seem.
And we live in a world where there's so much power with social media. The Me Too movement was a huge disaster. It was like, here's a voice for women to speak out. And then it was just there was a lot of people who ruined it for other women to speak out about, I slept with Johnny Nojo, and he was like, I don't know. And then she woke up the next day with regret. Then she makes it a story that's not, I think Aziz, the comedian, Dude, I literally like saw a story and it was horrible. So basically he goes out. You got to imagine what Aziz is like. Aziz is like, hey, what's up? His personality is like really awkward, right? And I think that his comedic personality is the same of who he is. And he's like, hey. And I remember him talking about the thing. He's like, yeah, so listen, like this girl want to go out with me, and we hung out, and so and then he was like, yo, and then he was like, so I did it. And then like he was talking about how like that girl's like, oh yeah, I didn't really want you to do that, but because of your power and prestige, I did. And tried saying that it became like a rape issue. And so then he was like, he responded, and his response was pretty much like, I didn't know I thought you liked me. And like he was just baffled and upset and felt guilt and felt upset. And this is where integrity comes in. This is where you're going to run a steep line. Hey man, listen, dude, I don't care. Shut up. That's me now. And he got, and people of Hollywood and I think this is why people of Hollywood or people of stature, everything that they do with their life is based on how everyone looks at them and their imagery. I can say whatever I want because like I've got a sword and a shield and I shovel crap. Like I'm out here like fighting. I'm not an entertainer. I was at that point where I started getting popular, but I don't care. And that's the reason why, I think there's this path that these people have to take. And I think he was so upset that he got blackballed, and it came out that it was not what it was. Johnny Depp, another example, man. And I know this story. I know somebody might just comment and say something like, well, here we go. It's just cis male, predominant, blah, blah, blah. But it's just what it is. It is what it is. And that movement was a huge disaster. And even people on that agenda know, they're like, oh, man, it was a good thing. But that's everything. If it's going to be something like the concrete, over time, things will grow. But if it's not, AKA, I'll swear you guys messed up here. But like BLM, garbage. All right. Tell you right now, I lived most of my life in the hood, bro. Like my fight club was 99% black. Okay. Listen, man, I'm not going to touch and tone on this whole situation. That situation sucked. And I agree with all the stuff that happened that like basically like that dude got screwed, but I see all these other viewpoints and I just think it sucks. So overall, I think it's an unfortunate situation. But when a protest happens right before an election and all of a sudden, and this is it, this is honest, this is probably not going to be the most popular view, but Black Lives Matter seems to come out every 4 years, election. All of a sudden they're active, right? And I looked into it and I said, who's the prophet? You know what I'm saying? I looked into it and I went the whole thing and I was like, the ideal that people follow, it sounds good. You know what I'm saying? And it labels well, looks good on a t-shirt. But when you looked into it, you find out the person who ran it like embezzled a bunch of money, gave like their family members with security, all get $1 million houses. And you're like, really? So was this person really dedicated? Because it would have stayed tooth and nail to build a piece of concrete. It was a short movement. It was a hustle. It was a hustle that cost people lives, caused property damage. It's a hustle that lied to a whole race. I really think so. And I mean, that's a bold word to say, but it was a hustle that lied to a whole race. Everyone matters. Black Lives Matters. I'm half Mexican. I got a large Mexican family. It's been me and my mom forever. But when my real dad passed away, I find out that he's half Mexican. I got this whole Mexican family I just adopted in last few years. Because I don't know if I tell you that specifically, my stepdad passed away with ALS. My real dad passed away, and people came and found me, and that happened just a year ago. So people have been dying for the last 6 years in my family. It's been rough, okay? So sometimes I get bold, and like when I say these things, that's me having integrity. And it was a hustle. People got hustled. People got hurt, and the whole race sort of got, I don't know, sort of just device narrative used for an election. Because, if you ain't black, if you don't vote for Joe.
Right.
So let those words sink in. Just think about that. Rewind that over again.
God,
rewind everything happened.
That.
Yeah.
He did say that. Yeah.
But that was bold. That wasn't. Joe Biden is not stupid. Like, that's another thing. George Bush was not stupid. These people went to Harvard. Is he out of it? Is he like a little squirrely right now? No, he knows what he was devising. He knows what he's doing. And he's at a point now, these elitists use each other and they sacrifice. He's doing it. He's a sacrificial lamb right now. What could possibly happen with this man? Like, if some loonball went after him and did something to him, it's going to be the biggest news story that some white gun-toting patriot went after him. It's going to be device to help divide. There's nothing you can do. The situation has to be done with diplomacy, to deal with him. And diplomacy is having these type of conversations, letting people think outside the box, And this is a tough conversation to have. I am saying this stuff on a podcast right now. But I'm saying it just because it's what I see on the street, man. I see people every day. I'm not a college kid, and your college education are talking about this stuff. And like I said, when I say these things about the movements, people believing in the movements, there's nothing wrong with those people. Those are the best part of the people that want to believe in something better. But when I see a movement die out all of a sudden, or it's not going to Chicago and helping black families, it's not coming to Flint and making a protest about the Flint water, which is still an issue. That to me is a true liberal mind. Like not a liberal hive mind, but a liberal mind. You know what I'm saying?
Classic liberalism versus
classic liberal versus liberal
how it's
hive mind.
defined now.
Yeah, how it's defined now.
Yeah. No, interesting. I think both sides are guilty of doing the same types of things. And I mean, it drives me nuts. I have a hard time identifying as any party anymore. Truly.
I think that no matter how old we are in age, and I think that that's the true sign of maturity, because the party systems are being made, these movements are being made to just sort of create, sort of put all the followers in different positions. So like this Mountain Dew, it's got Mountain Dew in it. This has got water in it. And we got to get all these followers in their containers and not pour them into this big giant river together.
Yeah, right. Not put them in the melting pot that they should be in.
Because when you're in a melting pot, what happens? You bond.
Right.
Like my relationship with Kyle, my relationship in the shop, my relationship with a full black fighting team, because you become family and you understand each other's differences. And you're not forged from stereotypes, and that's what these movements are. Create social media, put them in bottles, and then that's it. And then these bottles all choose what they believe in, and then they never talk, because either they're censored. It seems like everything that gets censored on big tech is truthful, big truth or whatever. Right. Of course, unless it's crazy stuff. Then create a divided line where you stereotype and you judge each other, and then you're too scared to talk to each other.
Oh, because you'll be ostracized from that group, and then you'll be in no man's land, and human nature doesn't want to be in no man's land.
A person like me can say this because I am a loner. You know what I'm saying? I spent my whole life trying to figure out who I was. I say these things because I'm not scared. I'm not scared of the consequences of this, because I feel like these are honest truths that should be talked about. And people in Hollywood don't do that because it's hard, because they're not willing to make that sacrifice. Then that's not a patriot. That's not a warrior. That's basically, just sort of clammed up. So many people right now of status that if they all spoke out at once could do something, but of, somebody like, Tom Cruise or something like that. I think Tom Cruise spoke out with Top Gun, in a sense. Mm-hmm. The wokeism is fake. That's why when people are like, oh, you're a woke or whatever, it's not. If you're woke, the real definition of being woke would probably be like somebody who actually listens to all these different news medias and is educated. So, yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think to take a stance on things, you have to have chutzpah, right? And not many people have that these days.
It's hard. But man.
We really appreciate you coming on the show.
The show went so deep, man.
It's been fascinating.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Listen, I'll tell you some more stories, but I can't really tell you all the stories. I mean,
we missed out.
My girlfriend's to watch the show and be like, "Who is this?"
Stories.
Where can people find you if they want to talk more and learn more about you?
Okay, so I guess Tattoos by JWoo on Instagram and on basically Tattoos by JWoo is my Instagram and my Facebook handle. I do have a Facebook. It's JWoo Kyle. You could follow it, and I think it's full, but I don't really when we talk about this political stuff. It's really, I went bold on talking about this stuff because if you listen to me, you don't know what to think of me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the problem is it's, so you can reach me out to that, but you can reach me out to, Jumpstart Garage for my YouTube, my car stuff. We didn't even touch that. I still do car stuff. I just live my life and exciting and have fun. But like, yeah, awesome. these type of talks, if you guys would like that, I'd come back on the show and talk.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure we have all those links in the show notes. And
yeah, if you guys like art and cars, there you go. That's all it's going to be. I don't do political stuff. Like, I can't believe we got into it. Yeah. But that's I talked about this political stuff based off the education of talking it like a man. I'm not political at all. Like, so, you know what I'm saying? But I'm talking to you guys about it, and I'm talking to your crowd because I hope somebody just learns or can think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Not get offended too much.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show.
All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
All right.